When you look at the founding leadership teams that you're looking to invest in, what are the key characteristics that you look for when making that investment?
They have the grit, the desire to go through those valleys of potential death. They get it done.
Welcome to Leading Beyond the Lab, joined by Sascha Berger, a proven life sciences investor across biotech, medtech, medical device, based in Saudi Arabia and looking at global investment strategies.
I don't know how many companies, in my experience, which have almost gone bankrupt.
Really?
So how does all this fit into your current role?
Boston were the key global hub, right, for now. Clearly outlined by the Crown Prince in the National Biotech Strategy to make Saudi Arabia a regional hub in the next 5 years. Become a leading cluster by 2040.
So with that in mind, what are the hallmarks of the companies that you're looking to invest in? Welcome to Leading Beyond the Lab. Today I'm really excited to be joined by Sascha Berger, a proven life sciences investor across biotech, medtech, medical device, based in Saudi Arabia and looking at global investment strategies. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for having me. Looking very much forward to this discussion.
Yeah. Would you like to, or be kind enough to share with us and the audience a little bit about your journey and why you are where you are today?
Happy to. So my journey did start early on with the idea of investing and being excited by life science innovation. But I didn't start my career with that. So I was just fascinated by entrepreneurship and also by scientific discoveries, and not only doing it from a lab perspective, but from the business side of creating companies and growing companies in that field. So that's how I started my academic career in chemistry, but then later on did a PhD in finance. So even at that time, I kind of combined the different views and worked at a venture fund while I was studying. So I was
busy.
quite interested in the field, and back then. Interestingly, I got a good recommendation from one of the partners I was supporting as a student. And he said, "Well, listen, if you want to become an investor, don't think about doing that for the next 10 years, right? Because being an investor does not just mean handing out cash and money. That's of course that's important. That's the fuel every biotech company needs. But what really makes a difference is what experience you can share, how you can help companies, how you can help founders. So be a very supportive board member, be a supportive partner of your portfolio company. So don't start with us, do something else." And actually I took it literally. So I invested the first 10 years of my career in doing different things, from consulting to corporate work, and after those 10 years, I kind of came back to that idea of moving into life science venture capital, and always kept contact with the team at TVM Capital. And that was a good time. They wanted to raise a new fund and were looking for a young, ambitious person. And given that we had a history of working together and keeping contact over time, was the right time. And so I joined. That was 2015. So 10 years ago. And and then from then on, really. Stayed in the industry, really loved my job. It's a fascinating job working with founders, scientific minds, speaking about new innovative ways of really changing patient lives. Then my journey took me to Saudi eventually, where I'm now. Working based in Saudi Arabia and helping to grow the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia, but investing globally, and that's why I'm here today in Boston.
Yeah, I can see how the ingredients are there to get you to where you are today. PhD in finance, scientific background, and management consulting probably gave you a good, wide-ranging understanding of how businesses work. How do you think that specifically, when you were a management consultant, how does that help you understand biotechs when you talk to them and liaise with them and dive into their business models?
Well, if you speak to scientific founders, I usually do not stretch that period of my career because they hate it, right? McKinsey and BCG is nothing you would ever want to stress when speaking with an academic founder,
Okay,
right?
that's
Who
interesting.
has had its career and publishing papers and diving deep into science, but the way of thinking from a corporate perspective, how to run processes, how to think strategically, how to approach markets and competitiveness, all that of course is helpful in the corporate world. And if you move away from an academic setting to a biotech company level, that does help, of course. So I don't miss these years. They were very helpful for me personally. At a quite steep learning curve, a lot of pressure, a lot of work, and a lot of fun as well. So I kept a few really good friendships from the time I developed over there. So it's it is part of building a personality.
What's the most fulfilling part of that life cycle that you found?
Well, being a consultant, you mean, or
More in your current role as an investor, when working with these early stage companies?
The most fulfilling part is that you see the passion and the enthusiasm coming from science and technology, and working with these bright, passionate individuals is a privilege. And as an investor, you also have the privilege of being able to help them, right? So it's my job to facilitate that. I'm not the scientific mastermind. It's them. But by partnering up and supporting and helping them grow, build teams, build partnerships with big corporations, and think about where could this go next, and how can we eventually make this an investment success. That's a really fulfilling journey.
When you look at the founding leadership teams that you're looking to invest in, what are the key characteristics that you look for when making that investment?
It's not that you would say, okay, there's the typical check mark. It's in the end, this is a people business, right? Yeah, of course we can analytically assess a certain type of characteristics. There are studies out there how founders or successful founders look like, so to say, right? What characteristics they bring. But it's not that there is just this one prototype. Sometimes people surprise you in how they can be successful because they are quite different than others. So it's of course easy to identify it in hindsight, and that's the simple rule the VC would follow is show what you have done before, right? I mean, there are serial entrepreneurs who have demonstrated it a few times, and that they can do it, that they have the grit, that they have the desire to go through those valleys of potential death, right? And they get it done. They're typically good salesmen. That's what you have to do.
Tell the story.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to tell the story. You have to convince me, right? As an example of an investor, that you have to convince your corporate partners, your pharma partners. When you want to sell the company later on, you have to sell. So you have to be very very convincing in being able to tell your story in a short period of time, and bring people behind this vision, the own team and the external partners like also investors. So this to a certain degree certainly can be learned. That's why teaching from an investor perspective does work, right? So people who are doing their first startup should definitely look for mentors, other founders who have been successful, could be an investor as well.
Is that commonplace? So do you find that by the time they get to you, they've already kind of seeked that out?
That maybe is one of those elements which differentiate successful founders from not so successful ones. First, understanding where your limitations are and the clear desire to learn and to develop constantly, not just scientifically, right? That's where, of course, brilliant scientists are born. They know that there's always something new to develop and that they have to dig deep and they have to learn constantly. But you also have to do that on the corporate side, right? It's I was not born as the person I am today, right? I've made mistakes. I've learned my lessons, but I think I'm aware of the fact that I constantly have to learn and seek feedback and try to work closely with people who have experience and take my own lessons from working with them.
And when you talk about telling the story, if I think about when I was actually at the conference earlier, I was standing at the hotel, the Omnia Hotel. It's a hive of activity. Some would say a meat market. It's very, very busy. And I think I'm waiting for a drink and I can hear 3 or 4 conversations just within a 3-meter diameter of me. Yeah. And they're all saying the same thing, which is we're trying to generate funds, we need capital, we're trying to hit these milestones. You would get the impression that they're trying to work on building that compelling pitch. I can imagine that they probably need to be able to do that quickly. And there's probably limitations about how technical they can get in that amount of time before losing that message. So would you have any advice for the listeners, for example, on how they could do that or go about that?
Yeah, if I would say now everyone should come to the Omni, probably next year it would be even more crowded. So I will not say that, even though it's true, in fact. So I will also be at the bar and I get pitches every time. I don't think necessarily that...
Did you get approached standing there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You do, and it's of course understandable, right? I mean, if you're looking for money, you take every opportunity you can, and why not at the bar?
How many beers in? Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know whether that is necessarily the most effective way of pitching your story. But clearly generating interest, being able to clearly articulate what you want to achieve, why you think you can achieve that, and where's your differentiation, shows that there's someone who has a clear plan, who knows how to execute that plan, and he needs exactly you to match that. The only challenge, of course, is that every investor has a fairly particular set of investment criteria. So what you should do in this very first interaction is, if you don't know the other person, try to understand, okay, what is actually the mandate, right? I mean, I can get pitches for things for an hour where by now I would tell them relatively soon after some point that this sounds amazing, but I'm just not the person who would be able to invest in that, because that's not part of my mandate.
So just on that, is that therapeutics versus medical device, that check size, is it stage of investment?
Yeah, it's all of that, of course. So every investor has a very clear focus of how they how they try to structure that market of endless opportunities. Here in Boston, I mean, here are two handful of top biotech investors, and each of them has a slightly different approach. So that is not too complicated to research, ask how they would approach things, and then of course getting in contact with one of those, you kind of understand, okay, is there a general interest, right? Because what we as a startup are doing would fall into in broad terms into what they're looking for. Then it's way more or way higher chances of being successful than a random pitch at somebody who has an investor sticker, right? Because they may not at all be interested in what you're doing, despite the fact that it might be a very interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the obvious ways they could do that is by looking at your portfolio companies, looking online.
Sure.
Basic research, really.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, in times of ChatGPT and deep
GPT,
research,
yeah.
I mean,
I wasn't even thinking of that.
I mean, it's a 5-minute thing, right? So this is my company. What kind of investors would be interesting, and then ask, right? It's not that there's millions of opportunities out there when you want to get funding from a more traditional venture setting. That's an endless, not a non-endless space of opportunities. It's more complicated, I'd say, if you want to approach different sources of capital, like family offices, because they don't have maybe that very clear, distinct investment mandate or strategy, and it's not on the website, and it's so that is way more complicated. That's where you just have to find out and convince with a story. Then with a fund who has a investment strategy, investment perspective, they have raised money based on a certain strategy, so either you fit or you don't.
And from learned experience, I suppose you must form pattern recognition versus instinct, and then that ultimately forms your gut feel. So if you've got 3 companies that have a similarly compelling scientific value proposition, what is it that you hone in on?
Well, yeah, it's not just that scientific one, but even there, I would argue that most likely, if you look deep into it, it's not equal. Even those 3. So most likely, from a scientific perspective, you would be able to make a ranking here
from data, and I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Data, then the uniqueness of the approach. What's out there in terms of competitive approaches, what's the market, so all these more or less objectifiable criteria. But then there's maybe equally important the aspect of execution. It's nice to have a data set, a likelihood of success based on the approach, the scientific merits, the markets, the competition and the like. But it's not worth nothing if the team is not able to execute that strategy. So
how do you qualify that?
Yeah, that is even that's more complicated, right? Because that is not something where you could just look at data or
a deck.
Yes, exactly. So that's where the track record comes in, right? So if a person has shown that it can be successful, that's exactly one key criterion why an investor would want to work with them again. Right, so they have shown that they can be successful, that they can go through these challenges, and that they can motivate a team, and that they can pivot potentially, right, if something really goes wrong. So that is important, that you have a team, and ideally it's a mix of experienced people and hungry, energetic. New founders who really want to build something, right? You have to have this desire to make it big, because this is hard. I mean, there are many books written on that, right? So I don't have to repeat it, those titles, but building companies is hard, and growing companies and making this successful is hard, and you get a lot of hurdles along the way to jump over. And I don't know how many companies we had and I had in my experience, which have almost gone bankrupt because of something, and then still
Really?
they have been successful, right? So it's hardly ever this clear straight road, and this is a super good idea, great team, you just execute and then you're successful. No, I mean, even there in biotech and in life sciences, it takes years and setbacks, and then there's the next financial crisis, and funding dries out. I mean, as today, so it's a journey.
Yeah, it's like a white knuckle ride, and you get your battle scars, and you learn from them.
Absolutely.
With the team, I just want to touch on the point that you mentioned that was really super interesting. Naturally, most biotechs or medtechs or whatever early stage companies are often academic spin-offs. So if you were to be talking to an archetypal kind of academic spin-off that's an early stage company, seed or Series A, they haven't yet had the chance to build that proven track record. What advice would you have for those people?
Well, we always started somewhere, right? So there's every successful biotech entrepreneur has been a first timer at some point. So there's ways to do that, and often that means having a failure at some point. So being humble enough to know, right, that there will be failure at some point, that's fair and fine. That is important. And what I mentioned before is that
mentors.
Yeah, exactly. Try to find people who have done it before, and you don't have to just replicate what they've done. Everyone is different. Every time is different. Every company is different. But being open enough to ask for advice, and even if you think that's complete nonsense, right? Doesn't make any. Doesn't have any meaning in your context, still it makes you think, right? Okay, got it. There's way to maneuver. It's not a one man or one woman show, right? This is a team effort, and team means in the company, bringing together different perspectives and different people working together, and also with there are different people around, right? So yes, advisors, investors could be those advisors or mentors, or there's lots of people who in this industry who have a lot of scars and they are willing to share.
I'm just thinking of the companies that I've worked with, and there's certain leadership teams that openly will say to me, we have no interest in taking this company past phase 2. We're not interested in the bureaucracy that comes with that and everything else. But there's others that will say they want to become, a commercialized company, and they look forward to that challenge. So yeah, I see what you mean. It's also in their interest as well as their experience and skills that they've accrued. Yeah,
absolutely. But that's a good point you make, and that's also the ability to understand where your desire is and maybe your limitations. So not every scientific founder necessarily has to become the CEO of a NASDAQ listed company, right? That's totally fine. There are a few, but actually there are really not a lot, right, who made that journey. Most of them would say, okay, I love the challenge of scientific discovery, and I like to see this becoming a company, but then transition to a certain role, right? Either the chief medical officer or even just a scientific advisor at some point. And then you bring in people who thrive and excel in growing a company, right? And being the corporate leader. So that's okay. That not everyone is an expert in everything. And you may try out and see what you can do, and if you feel that the bureaucracy and just speaking constantly to investors and being on these conferences like Bio today and is not your thing, well, that's okay, right? So it's not that this is the only way to be successful, but a company needs that personality. So then maybe it's somebody else, and that's also our role as investors to see that and try to work with the teams and convince them. And that's sometimes the hardest piece, actually, that you see.
Oh, really?
I had that every investor will have these stories where you had a great founder, but you know early on that that's not the person who will be leading that company 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because that's just not their DNA. But not every person sees that, right? So trying
It's a difficult dynamic to manage.
Exactly, to manage those dimensions and those interactions, that differentiates a good investor from a not so good investor.
Yeah, and I can imagine that. Well, I've worked with super technical CEOs. Quite often they're okay to a certain point, and then they need new skills and experience. They just haven't garnered yet, and you don't know what you don't know, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So how does all this fit into in your current role?
Mm-hmm.
And what are you doing that's different in your current role that perhaps you weren't doing in your last role?
Well, the environment in the Middle East is super exciting. I am very fascinated by the long-term vision of the Saudi government and the leadership of the country in identifying biotech as a core technology. A few other countries around the world have done that partially, but Saudi is very bold here. So that makes it a very, very interesting and fulfilling exercise. And I was attracted by that long-term vision. Of course, also by the financial capabilities in Saudi, and the desire to use the funds and divert away from an oil-based economy, and really invest that money into building ecosystems around high tech and new technologies and biotechnology and life sciences specifically. And there's lots of enthusiasm in the country. So this year we have come to Bio with more than 200 delegates. Wow. So it's a quite sizable delegation from Saudi, and we have a really beautiful pavilion, as I feel. It's a testament to the ambitions of the country and becoming a life sciences hub in the future.
Is there a time scale on that? Is that like a milestone they want to hit?
Absolutely, no. It has been clearly outlined by the Crown Prince in the National Biotech Strategy for Saudi to make Saudi Arabia a regional hub in life sciences and biotech in the next 5 years. To 2030 and become a relevant and even maybe leading cluster by 2040. So the vision has been clearly laid out. The capital is being put behind. The different stakeholders in the country are coming together, clearly led by the Public Investment Fund as one of those entities leading the charge here, but in very strong collaboration with the different ministries, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Investment, Research and Development Agency. So it's really a national effort, and that's quite exciting being there on the investment side, seeing that
leading the charge almost.
Exactly, that there's lots of momentum and different players working together to achieve a goal. I think the reception here also at Bio and in Boston, where clearly this is the the ground zero of biotech.
Yeah.
And or positively put the really the key global hub, right? For now,
Competitive spirit's coming out.
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. China is coming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you can build up an biotech ecosystem somewhere else, and so far that's also a motivation now for Saudi, saying, okay, we can do this.
So with that in mind, what are the hallmarks of the companies that you're looking to invest in?
Right now, it's on foundational technologies. So the needs of the country have been articulated in the National Biotech Strategy with some fundamental capabilities, also to make sure that from a national resilience perspective, vaccines, basic manufacturing capabilities in insulin, in diabetes drugs, also in like GLP-1s, is fulfilled. Then genetics has been a clear goal, and localizing manufacturing. So there's certain areas which are relevant, and from a national perspective, from an investment standpoint, I mean, I have to look at the opportunities out there with the new advancements in artificial intelligence and computing. Now, two major movements come together: scientific discoveries, right? Cell and gene therapies, genetic engineering. And more complex biologics.
Editing.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's lots of exciting technologies, but now combining that with the tremendous computing capabilities also we're building in Saudi is a fascinating time where I think we can really speed up and accelerate the drug development process significantly with automation and massive computing power and in silico design and testing. So all this together is an opportunity in the market, and that is very well matched with what Saudi has as capabilities today, with cheap energy and capital and ambition and massive investments in data centers and compute power. So this is an exciting time to work in this field.
And with those companies, is there any specific stage that you'd like to invest in?
Well, the interest spans different categories. Clearly, we're talking about slightly more mature companies at this point, because
in the clinic.
I mean, depends. I mean, if you're talking about therapeutic companies,
of course, yeah.
Then yes, that would be one element. But we're not just looking specifically at individual platforms or individual asset companies, but also at service plays, because if you want to seed an ecosystem, CDMOs, CROs, clinical trial infrastructure, manufacturing is important to build up talent, because talent is then what you need also for growing and being successful with individual technology companies. So that, with our strategic lens, not just as a pure financial investor, but as a strategic investor, is part of the investment strategy. So that yes, we also look at service service businesses, and then platform plays and the Series A, B type of company as well. Yes, of course. And in particular, if this is transformational and really disruptive new science.
So with the kind of service-based companies, typically they are approached by the PE side of things, right? So
Yes.
does that mean you're kind of structuring the fund in various ways almost, with like different risk profiles for different types of companies and that kind of thing?
Well, I think it's not fully baked yet.
Makes it more exciting in many ways, doesn't it? Because
No, absolutely.
it's a greenfield opportunity.
Yes, it is. And that's also one of the missions here in Boston, to work with a number of other investors and with different pharma companies and accelerators and incubators, in seeing how can one work together to seed an ecosystem in life sciences in Saudi by acknowledging that there is a way to go, but bridging the science and the experience and the talent which is in ecosystems like Boston or the Silicon Valley or in Europe or China with Saudi. So that is one of the strategic goals.
And with those companies, so does that mean that, do they fall into two buckets then? So you have companies that you're looking to invest in as an investment, and then ones that you're looking to contribute to the ecosystem where part of the chain, if you like, could be based in Saudi?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice. I imagine you're going to be very busy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like when I place people in early stage companies that haven't got a website yet. The first thing they're doing is, spend a day installing Word on their computer, and all that kind of thing. I can imagine building from the ground up.
Absolutely. No, that's the exciting piece here. Yeah.
Thank you. I suppose the final thing I would say is, if the audience is a company looking to seed investment and they'd like to reach out, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, maybe answering in the way of a prototype investor here, not necessarily just as me here representing a certain country or fund, but in general, I think this is a people-based industry, and warm introductions, that's the most helpful thing. So that's where
mine's the same.
It's absolutely. It's no secret, right? Absolutely, it's absolutely no secret.
More so now, I'd say, with all the noise of LinkedIn and stuff.
Yes, like that. It doesn't mean that I don't look at, for example, LinkedIn messages or emails and the likes, but there's so much coming in that you have to filter, and I just don't have the time and the bandwidth to look at everything with the same alertness. While if I know that they have specifically reached out because they understand what we're doing or what that particular type of investor is looking for, and then you can tailor that already, and then you try to find someone who could give you a warm intro here, because they have looked at it, but it doesn't really quite fall into their mandate, right? But they like it, and then I would always ask for a referral. Say, okay, you have looked at it, you think this is a good approach. Who would be the one you would recommend to talk to? Who would be more suitable? And that then comes directly with a warm intro. So I've done that many times. That I've directed people to other funds I know who might be interested in that. And I'm also quite honest when I'm approached and they ask for a reference or a referral, and I say I don't know who would be interested in that, which may be the case because I truly don't know who is the other fund, but maybe also because I'm not convinced. And of course I don't want to just send this to somebody random so that they come to the same conclusion, right? So, but that's okay, right? There's lots of investors out there, and not necessarily just because I think that's not a good idea, that would be objectifiable. No, at all. I mean, there are many things I don't know, and maybe somebody else sees that, the potential and the opportunity here, and then they're better off with that investor.
Thank you, Sascha. I really, really appreciate your time today, and good luck. And we wish you all the best in your new venture.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and it was a real pleasure.
Thank you.